Hello, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. It is January, it's the brand new year. Excited to do this. My name is Felicia from SweetGeorgia and also the School of SweetGeorgia. This is our live office hours where we come once a month, every month at the end of the month, and we talk about all of the things that have been happening inside the School of SweetGeorgia. Thank you guys so much for being here today. This is our Happy New Year episode, really. This is the beginning of the year. It's going to be an exciting year. Lots of things are going to be happening this year. I don't know if you can hear outside my window. It's raining here in Vancouver. It's really rainy. But it's so warm in the attic today, so I had to open the window. So hopefully that's not too noisy or anything like that. So I'm hoping that everybody's been doing well. Everybody has had a good start to the new year, that all good things have been happening. But yeah, glad to share with you guys today. Nice to see you guys here in the chat as well. So let me show you what we have going on for today. So this is sort of what we're going to look at for today. We're looking at sort of what's going on right now. Oh, I see. Everybody's here. Yeah. Oh, it's always raining in Vancouver. Yeah. Yeah, so these are the things that we are going to talk about today, a little bit about what's happening right now, top of mind, things about the community, things about our latest updates, which is our latest courses that are coming out or about to come out, and events that are going to be happening as well. Sometimes we have Q&A. This time I don't think we do. And then the big section of this session is generally to share the wins that you've been having, show off the things that you've been making, and yeah, see what you've been sharing and doing inside the community. And because we missed because we missed December, we didn't have one of these live office hours in December. It's been a couple months. And so things have built up and there's lots and lots of wonderful things to share. So I'm excited to do that one with you guys soon. So let's first go to what is top of mind. And top of mind is right now, it is the end of January. And so generally, our January episode, we are talking a little bit about planning for the new year, thinking about, what do you want to make this year? What do you want to learn this year? What are your new goals and things like that? And so I have like a little some thoughts about this. I actually have a whole video about this coming out tomorrow. It'll be on YouTube, 10 o'clock on Friday on YouTube. And I talk a little bit more about like what personally I'm thinking about making. But in terms of helping you with some of your goals, some of your ideas, these are some of the things that I have been thinking about this year and kind of relating the making and the desire to make things and the desire to make all the different things and all of the different fiber arts to make that. And how do we manage to achieve that when we have this multi-craftual focus? Like what do you do when you want to knit and also spin and also weave and you have limited time, limited focus, limited space, all these kinds of things. And so these are the 5 things that I generally talk about when it comes to, being a multi-craftual maker. You having a focus so that you're not split focus all the time. So that means like maybe taking a moment now at the beginning of the year to write out your learning plan. And a learning plan is really just a spot where you write out all of the things that you're thinking about, what you'd like to make, what you'd like to focus on, so that you can start to sort of pull your ideas together into one specific area. So whether it's, I want to learn how to spin, or I want to spin more consistently, or I want to learn to weave a new weave structure that I haven't done before, like start to pull all those ideas together and write them down. Writing them down actually makes a huge difference. The second big thing is looking at your time and looking at, where can you fit in and carve out the time that you need in order to do these crafts, because they do take time. They don't happen on their own. And yes, you do have to take some time for these things. Space. You can look around your space and see, what does your craft space need? Does it need a reset? Does it need a cleanup? Does it need lighting? Does it need a review for your stash and to look at what you actually have materials wise? One of the things that I did in this room, I don't know if you can really tell, but I changed all of my lighting. I think for the past maybe couple of years, I had warm bulbs, like incandescent style bulbs. I wanted it to be really warm colored in here. And because I wanted to open the door and just have this space be really moody and warm and just aesthetic. I wanted it to feel kind of like you're sitting by a cozy fire, that kind of feeling up in here. But I discovered that it's really actually super hard on my eyes, and it was hard to see things. It was hard to see my work. And even though I had the moody cafe kind of vibe up here, feeling like that, I couldn't see any of my work, and it was really frustrating. And so I switched all of my light bulbs to 4,300 Kelvin, not 5,000 degree Kelvin, because that's really super white. But this is a 4,300 Kelvin bulb throughout everywhere here. And it's like white enough to be able to see things clearly, and it's bright enough, but at the same time, it's not stark white where I feel like I'm in a hospital room or something like that. So yeah, just changing your lighting, changing your space. Maybe that would be something that would help you this year. In terms of tools, we've talked about this before, looking at what equipment do you have? What can you consolidate? Maybe there's a new tool that you want to learn that you haven't tried before. Just right behind me here, I have actually attached the lock pop to my shelf here. So I have been using that. That is definitely a new thing for me that I'm trying. I used a blending board really for the first time last year, and now I'm just kind of trying something a little bit different in terms of fiber prep tools. Going to see how that works. And yeah, we've talked before about like using your machines, knitting machines, consolidating tools, consolidating spinning equipment, whatever it is, in order for you to feel like you are getting the best out of your time and your materials and the energy that you spend doing something. And then the last thing is really this idea of energy. Like we talk a lot about how, sometimes the crafting is saved for the very end of the day when you've done all of your other responsibilities. Like you have to do your work and you have to cook the food and you have to clean the house. And then once all those things are done, then you kind of collapse onto the couch and it's like 11:30 and you're like, oh, now I'm going to knit my project. And that can be super, super exhausting. And so this idea, like, how can you make sure that you are getting enough rest, that you're getting enough recovery, that you actually have the energy to tackle those projects? So maybe it's not about putting them at the end of the night. Maybe it's about waking up half an hour early and doing it first thing in the morning when you are fresh or you have more energy or anything like that. Because how can you expect to do deep learning of like a new weave structure or a new technique or something that requires like a heavy lift? How can you do that when it's so late and you're very, very tired? The other big thing that I am changing around this year from previous years is that if you watch these previous years, January sessions of the live office hours, I will often go through like my make 9, all the 9 things I want to make, and then I scheduled them out against a whole calendar year. And I found that that was actually very challenging to keep up with, not just because, schedules change and things change and, lots of things come up during the year and then your schedule goes off whack. But I think that it also took a lot of joy out of the process, a lot of fun out of the whole process. And so what I thought I would focus on this year, I think I've been listening to James Clear in that book, Atomic Habits. We've been listening to it in the car as we drive around and thinking rather about habits as opposed to outcomes. So rather than trying to track like the number of finished objects or the number of finished projects or whatever it is, just think more about the habit of actually sitting down and doing the thing. So if my habit is like every evening I sit down at my couch, then when I do that, I'm going to pull out my e-spinner and I'm going to spin. And so like every time this happens, then I'm going to do this. When this happens, then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to fit in all of this crafting because it's tied to something else that I would normally do. So if I sit in the car on the passenger side, I will crochet or I will knit. If I'm up in this blah, blah, blah attic room, then I will do the weaving thing on the weaving loom at X time or whatever it is. So trying to focus a little bit more on habits. And then if you are in the habit of, say, every Wednesday, I weave for an hour, by the end of a couple of weeks, you will automatically have a finished object because it doesn't actually take that long. So in any case, this is some of the things I wanted to encourage you to think about if you are thinking about setting some goals or some ideas or some plans for the new year. Now, this is something that I brought up last year as well. A couple of different ways of looking at the things that you are planning to make or planning to learn. You can look at any of the things that you're interested in, say, like, say, crochet, and you want to look at it in all sorts of different perspectives and angles. And maybe like I started crocheting when I was in grade 4, but I have not ever really done Tunisian crochet. So that's something that I'm wanting to explore and discover and learn and kind of play with right now. And so that's one way, like one stage of playing with crochet. Maybe the second stage would be like developing my skills, maybe improving my tension, maybe learning a bunch of new stitches and things like that. Maybe actually learning how to do color work crochet. That could be something really interesting this year. And then deepening would be like to take your craft and then go into something and become really masterful at it, whatever that happens to be. So I have a couple of pictures here of like, this is my ribber from my circular sock knitting machine because I'm hoping to really develop my understanding of that attachment and get really good at using that. And then the second thing is to like look a little bit more at the double weave stuff that I've been doing in the past and see if I can adapt that to 8-shaft looms and things. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of thinking about, but just different ways of approaching a particular craft. So if you've been knitting for a long time, what can you look at with knitting where you can be discovering something new about it, maybe developing some of your skills around it, and then maybe deepening and going into mastery with some of the things that you are already able to do. Now, these are some of the resources that we have to share with you on how to do some of this planning, or these things might help you out with your planning. We have a couple of courses that we put out before, and one of them is about the multi-craft tool maker. That is really about like juggling the focus and time and space and energy and resources, all of those kinds of things. How do you juggle that to be able to do all the different crafts? Epic Cloth is really about having one big massive goal, like say the sweater that I made last year, the Girdwood sweater, where we had the yarn, the fiber was dyed, and then it was prepped on a blending board, and then it was spun, and then it was knit by hand, and then it was machine knit, like all of the various different crafts and different stages of this fiber arts process. And then coming out with one big epic project. And how do you break that up into multiple steps? And then also we have a plan your make 9 kind of course. If you want to do sort of like 9 smaller projects, maybe one is like knit a shawl, and one is knit a pair of socks, and one is try this thing on a tapestry loom or something like that. So lots of different ways of approaching your planning. I did also a while back, I did a Taking Back Friday live talking about how to block out your time and make time for your making. And I think that that's a really, really important thing. We've talked about this a lot because it's a recurring issue that comes up, not having enough time, not making the time, not protecting the time and things like that. And so even here on the team, we talk about it often. Actually, Robin often messages me and she's like, are you making time for your making? And it's a good reminder that, hey, I actually need to do this as well. Yes, Elena's saying, I keep a couple of spindles in the kitchen for just this reason. You can easily get a few lengths spun and wound on every time the kettle boils. Yeah, just sometimes it's fitting in a little bit, like a little bit of, we called it patchwork time, kind of like filling in a little bit as you go. And this last link that I have on here is actually brand new for this year. It says Crafting with Intention. And so this is a blog post that's on our website where there is a PDF that will help you work through your goals this year and setting up those goals. So yeah, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what you guys are planning. If you haven't found the space yet, you can go into the SOS community forums, and there is a section there for learning plans. And so you can read through other people's learning plans to get inspiration, get some ideas, but then also just write your own. It doesn't have to be an essay. It doesn't have to be like 5 pages long. It can just be 3 sentences or a sentence like, "This year I want to focus on blah, blah, blah." But just the act of writing it down will make a big, big difference. And then if you come back and you check on it every couple of weeks, maybe once a month, maybe I will try to remind you every month that we do live office hours. Go back and check your learning plan. Are you on track with the things that you wanted to do? I have been writing this learning plan since 2018. And so I went back and I looked at some of my initial things that I was trying to learn in 2018. I was like, wow, I did those things and I learned them. And now I do different things and more things. And it's neat to be able to see how far you've come from where you started. So yeah, I encourage you guys to go check out some of those resources. Now, let's talk a little bit about the community thing, because I just mentioned this whole thing about where to put your learning plans. And so this is the space where you would go, schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/community. And your learning plans will be here in this area under the community chat. There's introduce yourself, and then there's learning plans down here. And so you can definitely check that spot out. But this is a space where you can ask questions about the courses on the school. And so if you have like a specific question that you have, or you want to ask an instructor for some more clarification or some guidance, this is a great place to check out as well. So this is more like a deep dive into a lot of those conversations. Now, if you've been with us for some time, you will know that we also created a new space for community last year, probably about 6-7 months ago. We started building this, and this is a new community space that is meant to be a little bit quicker and easier to access for many people, because there is an app that goes along with it. There's a very quick website that goes along with it as well. You can get this on your iPad, you can get it on your Google phone, on your iPhone, all of this kind of stuff. And so it's a really, really great way to stay connected with our community. And so absolutely, members of the school are welcome to join us in this community space, and your SOS membership gets you access into this new community space, and it's just part of your membership. Now, when you pop in here, you will see that there's actually a special space just for SOS members. And so there's going to be a couple of spaces just for SOS members with information for you guys. And then there's also all of our SOS events are listed here in this app. And so this is where you would join all of the crafternoons. This is where you would join a lot of the different meetups that we have. So we have a weaving meetup once a month. We have a fiber prep meetup once a month. And we have multiple crafternoons, sort of like chatty maker sort of sessions where you can just jump on into a live room, kind of like a Zoom room. And then you can just hang out with Robin. Robin's here on the chat here today, but Robin is one of our moderators and she hosts many of these meetings. Greta also hosts the fiber prep meeting. Between Robin and I, we host the weaving meeting as well. And so if you want to sort of see people in real life online, you can pop into any of those meetings as well. So yeah, we would love to see you guys in one of those meetups. I mentioned very briefly, there's a Friday quiet co-working session. And the Friday co-working sessions are basically sessions where you would come online and everybody's in the Zoom room or everybody's in a room, but everybody's on mute and everybody's just going to be silently working on their project. And just having that silent working time is actually very, very helpful for many people, and they're able to get actually quite a lot of work done. So looking forward to seeing you participate in any of those sessions if you like. Yes. Yes, I know, Nicole, you're saying, oh, there's many, many different places to meet, many different communities, lots and lots of places to go. There's absolutely a lot of places to connect right now. So let's talk a little bit about the latest updates. And so we're going to talk about the newest thing that's come out on the school. And the newest thing is the machine knitting hats class. This is one with Barb Barone. She taught our machine knitting classes earlier this past year in 2025. We had a couple of classes showing you how to set up the machine, how to get started with the machine, how to knit stockinette, how to do increases, decreases, all of those kinds of things on the knitting machine. And so this course is really kind of the next step because it's taking that machine and then we're learning how to do stripes, how to change color, learning how to make ribbing. So how to do the ribbing on the flatbed knitting machine. And so the ribbing is kind of like transformed from stockinette fabric. And then we also learn to do the crown decreases. And so taking something like this, which is a stockinette piece of fabric with stripes in it, and then turning it into an actual hat. So this is kind of like the next level for all of these skills. You can see here, this is the hat being modeled by Greta. It looks really lovely, but you can see how this is an amazingly simple canvas for using any of the yarns that you have. Any yarn that you have in your stash could be knit up into a swatch where you could measure, how many stitches do you have per 4 inches, per 10 centimeters, whatever it is, and then figure out how many stitches do you need to cast on, how many stitches do you need to knit on the machine in order to make a piece of fabric that will work as a hat. So you can see also on the inside of this hat how it is basically seamed together with mattress stitch. So very excited to see how this turns out for many of you guys, because you can use any yarn that you have, your worsted weight, DK weight, fingering weight, all of that. So that is the course with the machine knitting hats. Now, I will mention, because we're talking about machine knitting and Barb, that I just recorded an episode of the Sweet Georgia Show podcast with Barb, and it's come out actually yesterday. It released yesterday, and it was a really lovely conversation where I got to chat with Barb about her whole journey. She came from sort of a corporate career, corporate background, and then opened a yarn store together with her sister, Cynthia. And then their yarn store grew and grew, and it was a very successful yarn store. And then during the pandemic, Barb started to teach a lot of these classes. She's taught lots of different crafts, and she does lots of different crafts, but machine knitting was one of those crafts that she was teaching online through Zoom during the pandemic, and then kind of translated over into what we were doing here at the school. And so during this podcast episode, you can listen to the audio version, but then also we have a video version that we post on a YouTube channel as well, the Sweet Georgia Show YouTube channel. And you can see the video, and she holds up the different projects that she's made. She's wearing like this beautiful poncho that she's designed. She brought a whole bunch of projects to show. So if you are at all interested in machine knitted projects, then I would encourage you to check out Barb's episode there. She's very, very enthusiastic about machine knitting, and it's quite infectious as well. Now, just because we happen to be on the topic of the podcast, I wanted to highlight and mention this is an episode that we did actually about a year ago, probably almost a year ago. I chatted with Mari and Peter from Radical Weavers, and they are a sort of a community-focused weaving studio in Stirling in Scotland. So they're definitely about, like, they're more of a charity focused, but they're a studio that teaches tartan weaving and brings in many disadvantaged youth and things like that to help them. And so at this particular studio, just this past month, the Prince and Princess of Wales went to go visit them. And there's like a couple of social media posts about them, but Princess Kate and Prince William, they learned how to weave at Radical Weavers. And so you can see there's some video of them learning how to weave. She's using, I think that looks like an Ashford table loom there, and they're picking different colored yarns. It's actually pretty neat. So if you are at all interested in what they are doing at Radical Weavers, I do encourage you to listen to that podcast episode. It's very, very interesting what they're doing. And then you can hunt around and see what the Prince and Princess are doing with their weaving and learning how to weave. So yeah, that was really super fun to see. Now, since we're talking about weaving, the next course that is going to be coming out, and it's just being edited right now, it's just being finished up right now, is the waffle weave class. And so we are doing waffle weave with 2 different kinds of yarns. We're doing some with 4-shaft loom. We're doing some with 8-shaft loom. And so these towels that you can see here, those are all towels that have been woven in 8-2 unmercerized cotton. And they're kitchen towels. You could do these on a 4-shaft loom, and you could do it on a table loom, however you want to do it. But those are the towels that were designed for the course. And you can see it's a really lovely, fun way to play with a variety of colors. So it's a kind of a limited color palette. I think it's about 6 colors altogether, 4 main colors and then a couple of accent colors. And so you could pick any colors that you have in your stash. 8-2 cotton is it's pretty widely available and all different kinds of brands and things like that. So excited to see how you guys will transform this particular pattern and this canvas and use different color combinations and what will come out of all of this. These ones were, we worked with one of our local weavers, Sandy. And so she took kind of like the bones of my pattern. I sort of designed the warp stripe sequence, and then she went through and then she designed different weft sequences with the different colors. And it was funny because she'd made a comment in her notes. She's like, I'm not sure if these colors go together. Like they're really, they seem like they clash a little bit, or maybe they're too high contrast. But I think overall the colors turned out really well. The towels look really cohesive together. I think they're really quite lovely. So it'll be interesting. Like if you pick colors that you think are really very different or also clashing, I'm curious to see if they will turn out well. I think it'll be actually a really neat experiment. So that is the 4-shaft cotton towel project. The other project that is in here is an 8-shaft project. And so this one cannot be done on a 4-shaft loom. This is an 8-shaft project. It's actually threaded on 7 shafts of the 8-shaft loom that I have. And you can see how different it is from when it's on the loom to when it comes off of the loom. And so the photo at the top obviously is the photo of it on the loom, and you can see like it looks a little bit shiny, it looks a bit flat. You can see the weft floats, you can see the warp floats, everything. Yeah, it's so pretty when it's on the loom. And then even when it comes off the loom, it has a little bit of a waffle texture, but it's still very flat. And then you go and you wet finish it, and it blooms, it shrinks, it collapses, and then it becomes like this. Let me just show you because I have the sample here right in front of me. But this is the actual scarf that came off of the loom. And I think it's the perfect size, right? Like that's where it ends. It's the perfect size. It fits really, really. Yeah, it's really great. And then it started off as 12 inches and then it shrinks down to like 7 inches wide. So the shrinkage is, it's just so lovely and collapsed, and it's going to be super warm. And I chose just 3 colors, very, very simple. I kept it super, super simple. So basically there's 2 colors in the warp. There's one big blue stripe and one big green stripe, and then I used purple as my weft color throughout. But you could absolutely do this with multiple colors, make lots of different stripes in here, maybe even put that tartan, the plaid that we sort of went through in a previous course. We did the stripes, plaids, and tartans class. You could apply that stripe sequence to a scarf like this, and then just see what happens with all of this. So I named this scarf the Baker Street scarf. And the real reason is because I love waffle weave, because I was super, super, super inspired by Wallace Sewell. Wallace and Sewell, they are a weaving design team in London. And I remember going to London and wandering around various neighborhoods, and I literally just stumbled upon their shop. And it's a really beautiful, cute, miniature little shop at the corner on Lloyd Baker Street. And I did not seek this out. I was just wandering and I stumbled on it, and it was right there and full of beautiful waffle weave, beautiful, just beautiful weaving projects. And this design team I've talked about before. They're like heroes of mine, but they designed a lot of the fabric upholstery that is in the underground, like in the tube, in the actual trains of the tube. They designed all the textiles to go in there. So it's just absolutely such an inspiration, all the things that they're doing. And so that's a lot of where my interest in waffle weave comes from, is just having seen the things that they've created. So that's why it's called Baker Street, not because of Sherlock Holmes. But yes, you can try all sorts of different things. You can try weaving these scarves using cotton. I think that they might be a little bit sloopy and a little bit loose, but then definitely try, just sample, just try. I sampled so much for this course because, it's sample one thing and it didn't turn out, or sample another thing, try a little bit. And so this is something that you can, test out, explore, try different things, try different materials, and see where you get to. So that is the next course that's going to be coming out. Oh yes, so I should mention this scarf is done in the trifecta fine yarn that we have at Sweet Georgia. Lots and lots of different color options. So there you go. Now, what else do we have next? We have upcoming events. And the next upcoming event, well, it's actually happening in a few days. We are going to start talking about Fibre Prep. So Fibre Prep February is our sort of month-long exploration into fibre prep. I feel like fibre prep is one of the things that I initially glossed over when I started spinning. When I started spinning, I was just having trouble getting fiber in the first place. But once I started to get fiber, and once I started to like dye fiber, then I started to get interested also in like blending the fiber. And I acquired, hand cards very quickly, wool combs very quickly. But since then, I have learned about so many other different ways of preparing fiber. I remember there was a season where I was super obsessed with getting a drum carder and saved up for like 6 months to save up to get a drum carder, and just thinking that the drum carder would answer all my questions around fiber prep. But since that time, you can see here there's a photo of Greta and Charlotte at the studio working on blending boards. This has become a really, really interesting way of blending different fibers. And I'm also talking about, like I said, the lock pop, trying that thing as well, and looking at all the different ways that you can blend fiber. Last year, we were mostly talking about making rolags with the different colors and fibers and things like that. This year, we're talking about bast fibers. So kind of doing a deep dive into the course that Kim McKenna taught for us. And we had made these bast fiber kits, and just, trying to blend the bast fiber in together with wool to see how that will all feel. And so I have done a little bit of testing so far, and I'm going to share more of my thoughts a little bit later on. But you can see here, this is my bin of fiber so far. But at the studio, when I was there with the girls, I pulled out the drum carder and I ran some Rami and the Cordell wool through the drum carder and made this super ugly bat. It's so raggedy and it's not blended very well at all. Let me show you a little bit more up close. This is the ugly bat. Yeah, it doesn't look very blended at all. It's just too streaky, but that's one pass. And then Greta says that we should do 2 passes. So what I did was I took the drum carded bat and then I ran it through the lock pop. Nina's asking, what is a lock pop? The lock pop is like a mini, it's like a hand card and a blending board together, but it's about this big. It's stuck here right now. Maybe I can. This is the lock pop. Okay. So this is the thing that will attach it to the table, but this is basically what it is. It looks a little bit like a hand card, looks a little bit like a mini blending board, but you can see the tines are very long And so because they're very long, they can hold quite a lot of fiber. And so when you put it in here, the idea is that you're using it to flick open locks of fiber. So you would hold your fiber and then flick, and then it would open up the ends of your fiber, and then you can spin with them. But we're using it kind of like how we've used blending boards before, where we put the fiber in here and then pull it through with a diz in order to make it nice and nicely formed. So this is what I've done with it. So I turned this ugly bat, which Meg is saying is not ugly. And then I turned it into this lovely, nicely blended pencil roving here. So yeah, that is what I'm spinning. I have spun a little bit of it so far as a sample, because I'm trying to get into this habit of not necessarily spinning 100 grams of everything every single time, but just trying like 10 grams and seeing what that does, seeing how that feels before going on and doing the whole lot. So yes, and Greta's saying you could also use a hand card clamped to the table and then use a diz to make it like roving, the pencil like roving. Yes, so we've used the hand cart before. We've used the blending board before. This lock pop is just another tool that is very similar to that to do the thing with the diz. Yeah, but it makes very, very lovely, lovely fiber. So I'm spinning that right now. So yeah, if you guys want to play along with us, you can see this is our blending board experiment, popping some of that bast fiber in with your wool. I think maybe Charlotte also made Rolex. I think somebody did make Rolex. I'm not sure. But I think we're all doing slightly different things with our bast fiber. And then we're going to do a little bit of like compare, like round robin experiment. Look at what everybody's made. So if you guys want to play along, then yeah, dig out your bast fibers and then maybe some wool that you have in your stash and see if you can blend the two together. I was trying to go with the 20% bast fiber with 80% wool, but you could do any sort of blend. There, Rachel made Rolex. That's awesome. So that is what we are doing for the theme of February. Now, this is our calendar of all of the events that are coming up. And so we have, like I mentioned before, we have monthly meetings, the SOS Weavers meeting on Mondays, and then SOS Fiber Prep meeting also on Mondays. And then we also have a number of sort of community-led crafternoon sessions. So these ones are opened by Pearl. If you know Pearl in the community, Pearl will open and host some of these meetings. So this one's on Sunday. There's also the quiet co-working sessions on Friday. And then Monday crafternoons are hosted by Robin. And also there is a Wednesday evening multi-craftual meetup. And so that's open to everybody, anybody who wants to come, and you can bring whatever craft you happen to be working on for that one. And then we have our Taking Back Friday, which is a live stream that we do on YouTube. And then on the last Thursday of every month is this SOS Live Office Hours, which is what we're doing right now. And Saturdays, we have a Knit at Noon. It's basically where if you are in the Vancouver area, you are more than welcome to come and visit us at the actual Sweet Georgia studio in Vancouver, right on the riverfront. And you can come in, and Charlotte is generally there hosting those in-person meetings. And yeah, it's really, really lovely to have everybody together and meeting up there in person. Now, Robin is asking, are the community-led meetings in the Circle app too? Yes, they are. All of our meetings are now in the app, in the Circle app. You can also, you don't actually have to use the app. I think like, was it Wheezy was mentioning, or Elena was mentioning before, that there's also the web-based version of the community. So you can pop in there and then access everything like that. So the link to join the live rooms or to join these live meetings is all in the Circle community app. So we will find you in there. So now let's talk about the things that you guys have been making. And so I wanted to share some of the projects that have come up over the past couple of weeks and months. And so this one is by Nancy. This is actually the Secret Stash colorway from December 2024, called Hug and a Mug. And it's in the Cash Silk Spark yarn. So she had knit this up into a shawl pattern. The shawl is called Hana Kago, and it's designed by Mari Tobita. And it's lovely. I think the way that the colors worked out, it's pretty subtle. So none of the texture is sort of like, how do you say? It's not obscured. Like the texture is not obscured by the colors in the colorway. But she's saying that, oh, she couldn't get the sparkle to show in the picture. But it's really quite a lovely shawl there. It looks like it's almost like a basket weave it looks like a basket weave texture in the shawl itself, in the body of the shawl. And then you've got some lace here at the end. So that is very lovely. So if you have ever made anything with the Secret Stash projects, you guys are more than welcome to post that in the community, so that way we can all kind of see what you've made from your project, from your Secret Stash delivery. Now, this one is Amy's kitchen towels. And so these are kitchen towels that were made on a rigid heddle loom with a pickup stick in order to create that kind of texture. It's kind of like a waffly type of texture. And you can see that the top photo here, this is one where it has not been washed yet. This is straight off of the loom. And then after washing, you can see the fabric it does change. It like collapses a little bit, it softens up, and it looks really so squishy and inviting. So that is lovely. Some cotton kitchen towels that Amy made for Christmas. And so that's just using a pickup stick. We do have a number of courses with Amanda, who goes through all of our rigid heddle content, and she teaches the pickup sticks. She teaches how to do sort of like a waffle weave type of texture on your rigid heddle loom. And then with these pickup sticks and 2 heddles, you can also figure out how to do double weave, all of these kinds of things. A lot can be done with a rigid heddle loom. So thank you for sharing that, Amy. The next thing is Stephanie shared this hand spun that she's spun. And she said, I gave up on spinning yarn for myself. I'm too much of a perfectionist and I never spun something I like. It really sucked the fun out of spinning. And then I sold my wheel and started spinning on my e-spinner. And so now I spin chunky yarns for the store. I let the fiber do the talking. And so this is some bright and squishy, super bulky Rambouillet. And I absolutely love this. I wish that my spinning would look like this. I wish that it would have those like dots of color and just pop out. They're so, so, so fun. I think that one of the things that I have to kind of go back and remember is that if you want like a really bright hand spun yarn at the end of the day, you have to start with even brighter, even more vibrant colors in your fiber, because as you spin them down, they become more and more desaturated, right? They will desaturate as you spin them down into smaller little bits, and then you ply them, and these dots get really small, and then all the mixing and the blending of these colors, the optical mixing, will make the colors a little bit more subdued. So if you want this really bright, punchy, vibrant looking hand spun, you have to start with something really, really bright. So don't fear the bright fiber. But that is really fun. And just like this little photo is so inspiring, because this is the kind of thing that I would love to spin more of. This one is from Salpi, and they say that they're new to spinning, still working on getting a consistent yarn width with the Ashford e-spinner. But this is their first gradient yarn, following Kim McKenna's instructions from the course, How to Spin a Hand-Dyed Braid 5 Different Ways. And this is really, really lovely. If you look at the whole post, they have all of the fiber broken down, and it's all like, it's all prepped in all of these tiny little circles of color. There's two columns of gradient chunks of fiber, and then spun together really, really cleanly, and to make this beautiful gradient yarn. So I'm curious what will become of this yarn after. Yes, we did make this. Oh, actually, this colorway is actually the super, super bright Secret Stash fiber colorway. It's the lightning rod one from last summer we did, and it was super bright. And the interesting thing about this is if you look at everybody's braids that come out of this, everybody's chosen to do it a totally different way. And so yeah, this particularly bright color was pretty fun. Yes, eye-searingly bright. Yeah. Now, this is a technique that we talk about quite often in the school. It's the idea of plying through the rings. This is a technique that I believe, well, Kim McKenna does it. I think also Rachel has shown it, and I believe also Katrina has shown it, because we talk about it a lot. And it's about the idea of adding these additional points of tension to your unspun, your unplied yarns as you ply them. And then this helps to build consistency in your actual plied yarn. So this is Erin's version of this technique. The idea is that you have your bobbins on your Lazy Kate, and then you're running the yarn to another point of contact. And so that's what these rings are. She's just attached these rings to her actual dog kennel. So you can attach it to anything. But yeah, this is a really clever thing to do, because it's the kennel is right there, right? You just attach some rings to it, and then you can make it work. Yeah, you can just pop your yarn plies into there, and then that point of contact kind of going in this direction and then back is giving enough tension and is going to even out and make a more consistent plied yarn at the end of the day. So yeah, it's very ingenious. It's a great idea. Now, this one wanted to share with you. I think Meg is also here in the chat today, but this is her hybrid sweater that she's been working on. I'm interested to see, maybe you've made like more progress on this. But we had talked about, making this falling leaves sweater that was designed by Andrea Rangel. We taught this in the stranded colorwork class, basically knitting a sweater from the bottom up and then joining all of these pieces together for the yoke, and then knitting the yoke by knitting the colorwork yoke and then finishing at the neck. So that's kind of the construction of that particular sweater. I tried to flip the construction of it a little bit, and I knit the yoke first, starting from the bottom of the yoke up to the neck, and then I have provisional cast on for my yoke, and then I'm going to knit downwards using the knitting machine. Meg has done a different construction method where I believe she's knit the pieces from the bottom up, just like you would if you were knitting by hand, but she's done these on the LK150 knitting machine. And so she's knitting the pieces from the bottom up, and then you can see that they are all sort of joined here at the yoke area. So you have your bodies and your sleeves, everything here, and then joining them together and then knitting the color work by hand. And I think the other thing that she said about this was that she designed the color work yoke section to use a different motif. That she liked. Rather than using the falling leaves motif, she chose her own motif for the actual yoke part. So this will be really, really interesting to see how it all comes together when it's done. But there's so many different ways to make a sweater, so many different construction techniques that you can use. And so it's neat to be able to break things apart in your mind and then reform them and to actually make it all work. So yeah, excited. Looking forward to seeing how this sweater turns out for you, Meg. As Meg's here, says, I just posted in the community. I was almost at the end of the yoke and then found an extra stitch and my color work was puckery. I'm frogging it back to this point. Oh no. Okay, then we'll see the next step after you continue on from here then. Good luck with all of that. But thank you so much for sharing. This one is from Audrey. And so this is also a very clever reinterpretation of some of the things that we've taught. So like I mentioned, we were teaching these SOS classes on knitting colorwork sweaters, and we were talking about adapting them to hand knitting the yoke and flatbed knitting the body and the sleeves and everything like that. And Audrey took all of this information and then started designing a colorwork sweater using Tunisian crochet. And Tunisian crochet has a technique where you can basically crochet, but it looks like knit stitches. And so she's using those techniques of the things that we taught in the yoga course and the sweater knitting course, and she's applying it to a crocheted sweater. So I'm actually very curious to see how this turns out as well, because I know that you can make the Tunisian crochet look like knit stitches, but I wonder if it feels like knitting, or if it feels different, or if it feels thicker or more firm, or whatever it is. I think that this could also be something really interesting to look at. But I was just excited to see that, she took one idea inspired by one thing in knitting, and then turn around and then use it for something completely different, because you just never know where that inspiration is going to come from and what you can use with the things that you're learning. I like a lot of this parallel, learn one thing from one category or one kind of niche, and then turn around and use it, apply it to something completely different. I think that that's always really, really great. So I'm excited to see how this all turns out as well. And then we have Kathleen. Kathleen has been sharing her punch needle. Every month there is a new project. They're beautiful like vignettes into well, I mean, it's the whole theme of the year was called A Place to Call Home. And so this is the one from November. She has another one from December, like an end of the year one. And this one, she says, was At Home in the Hills, designed by Robin Whitford. These are like punch needle and rug hooking type kits. And she said, this was one of my favorites of the series to punch. And the colors and the yarns that were given to play with, the layout of the whole piece all spoke to me. And it's really, really lovely. I am so interested in what you could do with all of these techniques. And I guess when we did our punch needle class, we used wool and well, the punch needle tool and the cloth, and we were using like a thick, bulky wool. But it looks like from Kathleen's projects that some of these are like wool strips of fabric, like wool fabric that has been dyed and then cut up into strips and then used like that. And yeah, I'm interested to see like all the different things that you can do with this technique, because there's more tools and more techniques involved in all of this, because there's punch needle, and then there's rug hooking, and then there's tufting. And so they're all a little bit different, but kind of similar. So I'm trying to see sort of where all of these things overlap, and interested in getting into more of this year as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's been neat to see all of the punch needle throughout all these months. Now, this one is from Catherine. So, if you are following in the community at all, in the CSM chat channel that we have, Catherine acquired a new circular sock knitting machine just before the holidays. And this photo sort of shows her progression from things like making the tubes to making the gauge swatches to making the sock bonnets, and then trying the different heels. She showed like a picture. There's some of these heels have like, some holes in them and everything like that. And then all the way to the finished pair of ankle socks. And so this is great. It's a progression of learning, and just like step by step and trying a little bit, and then not necessarily expecting to finish a full sock from the get-go, but just having this stepwise progression of learning. So I think that that is absolutely fabulous. And then you could keep following, and then she made socks for her kids for the holidays and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, just keep going. And here's another one too, the CSM sock with all of these lovely stripes. And she says, I've just joined the class. I have an Erlbacher that I bought in 2024. This is from Janine. And I've made a bunch of pairs that are all the same size with hung hems, short row heels, and some different color heels. I love this striping. I think it's probably self-striping yarn, but it's so, so pretty. Love that. And then finally, we have one last project for today, and Elena is here, and I'm very, very excited to share this one. I think it's quite amazing. So this is very, very inspiring, because this is hand-spun yarn that Elena spun, and I don't know what year she would have spun this yarn, but in 2023, we did a weave along together with Debbie Held. And Debbie Held sort of talked to us about using your hand spun and then weaving it on a rigid heddle loom and making it into fabric and all sorts of things like that. And so that was like a little bit of a weaving make along. Just gather together all of your hand spun scraps and we're going to make something. And so Elena put together all of this yarn and wove it together in 2023 for that make along, and then wove this big piece of fabric. And then I think it sat there because I don't think she was sure what she was going to do with it. But in 2023, she said, I've discovered that I really like weaving with my handspun yarns. And then in 2025, a couple years later, she washed the fabric and, wet finished the fabric and then ended up sewing it into a pillowcase. She was asking questions in the forum. Should I add a zipper? Will the handspun fabric be strong enough to hold a zipper, or should I just sew it together? But in any case, she finished a pillow with her handspun, hand-woven fabric. And I think it's something to be super, super proud of. It might take time. It might take tons of energy, but this is like so much learning and so many moments of hopefully joy in this project that you now get to enjoy on your couch. I think it's absolutely really just wonderful and lovely and very, very inspiring. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about how much time something takes, because at the end of the day, then you have something that you can feel that you successfully accomplished after all of this time. So really, really happy for you and excited that that came to a finish. That's beautiful. Congratulations on that. So thank you guys so much to everybody for sharing all of your projects with us inside the community, for participating in some of our chats inside the community. We have like lots of different places, like Nicole was saying, we have lots of different places to connect right now, and trying to experiment and find what is the best way for everyone to connect and everybody to meet each other and to learn from each other and share what they've been working on and things like that. And so we're really excited to see where this year takes us and all of the things that we are going to be learning. We're wanting to help guide more people into all of these crafts and share with you guys all of the benefits of knowing all the different aspects of the fiber arts. Everything from starting with your fiber prep, to yarn, spinning the yarn, putting color on that yarn, and then either knitting or crocheting or machine knitting or weaving all of that yarn together to make something. So this is the whole process that we're looking at, and happy and very very excited to sort of work with you on any one of those aspects, because we are we are a little bit like just I'm meant to be kind of like a tour guide and excited to show you all of the things that are possible. And so even just this morning, somebody was showing some shawl patterns that are hand knit, and saying, oh, this shawl pattern looks so cool. And then I looked at it and I was immediately like, wow, that's tuck stitch. We could absolutely do that on a knitting machine. So maybe we should try that. And so there's so many different things that you can see in one, get inspired by one, and then hopefully try something new this year. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what your learning plans might be, what you're hoping to make. And as always, just excited to see and cheer on your progress about what you're working on throughout this year. So I do thank you guys for being here today for this session. I hope it's helpful. Yeah, Elena's saying that was a collection of yarns that you'd spun over several years. So that is absolutely incredible. I have a bucket of yarn, hand spun yarn over there in the corner that needs to be dealt with. And so maybe that's like putting it all in the knitting machine or putting it all in the loom, but definitely I kind of want to like use it all and then start fresh in some ways. So yeah, these are definitely the things that I've been thinking about as well. And as always, if you have any suggestions or advice or, requests for when you want to have meetups or how you guys want to meet or anything like that, please feel free to either message me or message anybody on our team or tell Robin or tell Greta or anybody. And yeah, we really do want to make this community in this school something that works for you and that is that serves you. And it's a place that you enjoy being as well. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm very excited to get back into the year after the holidays and looking forward to seeing you guys inside the school and the community there. Thanks so much for joining me today. I will see you guys in the next time. All right. Bye-bye.